Welcome! In these videos, we are going to learn how to use JavaFX to implement our Java applications. In this first video, we are going to have a look at the software needed to develop this application and how to start with a simple application. First of all, we need to have a look at the software needed. In our case, we need to install Java Development Kit in order to compile and run our applications. In our case, we are going to use OpenJDK version instead of Oracle official version because it's more portable and we can easily swap between versions in the future. Also, we are going to need an IDE to implement the applications. We are going to use IntelliJ in this case. Of course, we need to download JavaFX library, in this case according to the Java official version that we are going to install. And finally, we need an additional tool called Scene Builder in order to design the application, the layout of our application. Let's check now how to download and set up all this software. Regarding Java Development Kit or JDK, we can go to OpenJDK official website and browse the archive. Then, in our case, we are going to use JDK version 11. We can download the appropriate package from this section and unzip or decompress the file in our desired folder. In my case, I've decompressed the file in C under JDK 11 subfolder, and here we can locate bin subfolder, which is essential for working with Java. Inside this folder we have both the compiler tool and the running tool located inside this folder. So we need to specify in Windows configuration the folder where these applications are located. We can copy this path and go to environment variables section to add this path to the path environment variable. To do this, we can go to Windows search tool, look for environment variables, and then go through this button and edit the path environment variable, either on our user or for the whole system. In my case, I'm going to edit path variable for the whole system. We click on edit button and we make sure that there is a line containing the path to our bin subfolder. Once we have this done, we also need to add an additional environment variable called Java Home, pointing to the main folder on which we have the compressed JDK. In my case, under Unit C, JDK 11 subfolder. Once we have this done, we can open a terminal and check that everything is properly set up. We can also, for instance, we can type the compiler command javac and check that we have the appropriate version installed. Now it's time to set up IntelliJ ID. We move to the official website and click on the download button. Then we must choose community version, which is suitable for Java and Android applications. We download the file and install it in our system. Regarding JavaFX library, we can go to Gluon official website and download the appropriate version for our system. In our case, for instance, for Windows, we can download this package from this website. As we did for JDK, we just unzip or decompress this file in our desired folder. In my case, I've decompressed this library under this subfolder in Unit C. inside this subfolder, there are some folders containing the jar files of the library. Finally, we need an additional tool to design the layout of our application. We are going to use a tool called Scene Builder that we can download from Gluon official website as well. We just click on download button and choose the version according to JavaFX version and our operating system. In my case, I'm going to download and install the installer for Windows version regarding Java 11 version. Anyway, this step is not necessary if we are going to use IntelliJ, because we can download and install Scene Builder Kit for IntelliJ. That is a package bundled and embedded to this IDE. Okay, now it's time to set up the project we are going to work with. In our case, we are going to implement a simple calculator that lets us add, subtract, multiply, or divide two numbers. This is our application, what we are going to build, and as you can see, we can type any two numbers in these two text fields, choose the appropriate operator from the combo box in between, and check the result in the bottom label. This is what we are going to do in next steps. So first of all, we need to create an IntelliJ project and set it up to join JavaFX library. From IntelliJ, we need to create a new project. We must choose a JavaFX project, and in next step, we can call it, for instance, calculator FX. Notice that every project is automatically saved in our idea project subfolder. Once we create the project, we can see a source package, a source folder with a sample package with 3 files inside. There is a main application that will launch our JavaFX application. Now we can find some compilation errors that we will fix later, but let's have a look first at the 3 files that contain this package. The main application, then there is a controller where we will type every piece of code associated with our application, and an fxml file containing the layout of our application with every button, label, and every control that we put. Now everything is in red. We have a lot of compilation errors because we haven't linked the JavaFX library to our project yet. In order to do this, we right-click on the project's name and go to Open Module Settings. Then we can go either to Libraries or Global Library section, as we prefer, and add the libraries corresponding to JavaFX. For instance, we can move to Global Libraries and add a new global library, a Java library in this case. Then we go to the folder in which we decompressed JavaFX. In my case, this is the folder, and locate the lib subfolder inside this folder. Inside lib subfolder, we can find a lot of jar files. We must select all of them and then click on the OK button. Then IntelliJ says that these libraries will be associated to calculator FX module or project. We click on OK, and then we have these libraries added to our project. Now all these red lines or compilation errors disappear. In addition to this, and since Java version 9, we may need to specify a module configuration file. We right-click on the source folder and click on New Module Info Java. Then a new file is created, and inside this file we must specify the dependencies of our project through requires statements. In our case, we require a link to JavaFX controls package and also a link to JavaFX fxml package. Besides, we need to specify what our application is going to export or offer through the opens statement. In our case, we are going to offer our sample package. That's all. With this simple configuration file, our application is ready to be run. Although in this case, our application is empty and we will see nothing in the screen. So in next section, we are going to define the layout of our application. So it's time now to define the layout or the components or controls that our application will have and show. To do this, we are going to use SceneBuilder as our design tool, and we can use it either out of IntelliJ or embedded in IntelliJ, which is easier. If we open fxml file in the edition area, we can see the fxml contents of this file. There is a grid pane, which is our main container for now, but we can edit this file either manually, which is not recommended, or through a SceneBuilder. We can right click on fxml file and choose open in SceneBuilder. This will start SceneBuilder as a separate application, but we can also click on the SceneBuilder tab at the bottom of the edition area. In this case, SceneBuilder will be open inside IntelliJ. If not, there will be a link here in the top of the edition area to download SceneBuilder kit for IntelliJ, and in a few seconds you will be able to run this tool embedded in IntelliJ. So now this is the main window of SceneBuilder. We can see on the left some sections. We are going to pay attention just at the two first sections where containers and controls are located. And first of all, we need to change the default container of our application. When we are not going to use grid pane because we are going to implement a very simple application, and instead of this we can right click on this and remove it or delete it. We are going to add an anchor pane, which is one of the easiest containers that we can have in our applications. We can resize it, as you can see, and then once we have a container chosen from this panel, we can add controls inside this container through the control section. In our case, we are going to add two text fields. We can drag and drop these controls inside the container, one text field at the top and another text field some lines below. We are going to add as well a combo box to choose the appropriate operator. We place it between the two text fields. And below we are going to add a button to calculate the results and a label to show the final result of the operation. These are the controls that we need. Let's check some of these properties. For instance, we can change the text inside this button by going to the right panel and changing the text property. In this case, we're going to change button text with go text. You can see that the text is automatically changed in the button. Regarding the label, we are going to place here the result. So at the beginning, it will show just result text. We can change as well the font size and font color for every component. In this case, for the result, we are going to increase the size of the text, and also we are going to change the color of the text to highlight this result. We can also change the anchor points of every component. What is this? Regarding every component, if you go to layout section on the right, you can see some anchor points for our chosen component. If we, for instance, if we select left and right anchor points, what we are doing is fixing the margin on the left and on the right of this component. So if we resize the window, these margins will be always preserved. We can do this for every contour. For instance, here in the combo box, we can also anchor these left and right margins, and also, for instance, for the second text field. If we try to run the application now, the main window will be shown. Of course, we can't do anything with it for now, but we can try to resize the window and see how these anchor points work. If we try to increase the width of the window, we can see that the two text fields and the combo box also expand. And then we try to shrink the window, then these controls also shrink. So anchor points are a good option to let the application to be resized properly. We can also go to main class and change the title of the main window. Instead of having a hello world title, we can change it with a calculator FX. This way, when we run the application, we will see our new title in the top of the window. Here we can see our new title specified. So we have defined our layout for our application. In next section, we are going to start implementing the controller. As we have seen when we have created our JavaFX project, there is a controller class that is associated with the fxml file, or it can be associated with this file. To do this, we must complete some steps. First of all, we need to make sure that fxml file is properly associated with the controller. So we edit fxml file, go to the main container, in this case our anchor pane, and look for a controller attribute, fx controller attribute. If we can't find any of these attributes, we can add it manually and specify the controller class name along with the package where it belongs. In this case, sample.controller. Now we have linked the fxml file with the controller. Next step is to give a name to every control in this application to locate it from the controller. We go to Scene Builder, we choose every component that needs to be accessed from the controller and give it an ID from the left section called code. For instance, for the first text field, we are going to call it txt number 1. The second text field will be called txt number 2. The combo box will be called combo operator. and the result will be called LBL result. Regarding the button, we don't need to access it from the controller, so we don't need to give it an FX ID in this case. Well, all of these changes are reflected automatically in fxml file. We can see the FX ID that we have specified for every control. Then we need to copy or automatically add these controls to our controller in this case. If we click on any of these names, a yellow bulb will be shown in the left margin, and we can choose create field with the name associated to this control. This will add automatically a new property inside the controller pointing to the field of the fxml file. We can repeat these steps for every new control pending. And this way we have 4 attributes, 4 properties pointing to the 4 components of our application that we need to access from the controller. Of course, these properties should not be public. We can change the visibility to private for all of them. And in this case, we can move again to our sample XML file, and there will be some errors in each name. We can then go to the red bulb on the left margin and choose the first option, define an fxml annotation for each component, for each control. As you can see, by choosing this option, every error disappears, and what we have in the controller is an fxml annotation before every private attribute pointing to the fxml file. This is the appropriate way of adding controls from the fxml file to the controller. So in every piece of code inside this controller, we can refer to the corresponding controls in the fxml file. Next step that we need to do is implement an interface called IntelliJ, and then override or implement every pending method. In this case, there is just one method called initialize. This method is responsible of starting every content of the application. For instance, inside this method we can populate the options of the combo box. We go to combo operator, choose get items method, and then add every option inside this combo box. For instance, the 4 basic arithmetic operation: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's it. If we try to run the application again, we will be able to see all these options already added to the combo box. These are the options. As you can see, we can choose any of them, but we can't have a result yet because we haven't specified what to do when clicking this button. This will be specified in our next step when we define the events of the application. The final step in this calculator project will be to add the events to make it work. If we want to define any event, we can go to Sim Builder, click on the control over which we want to add the event. In this case, we click on the button, and then in the right pane, under the code section, we can find a lot of events that can be associated to this control in particular. In our case, we're going to define an action event. We can, in this case, give a name of the function or method that will be called whenever we click on this button. Let's call this function calculate. So after doing this, we can see this function in fxml file associated to the button, and as we did before, we can click on the red bulb and choose to create this method also in the controller. Then a new empty method will be created associated to the button, and inside this method we can define the code to get first number, get second number, get the operator chosen in the combo box, and print the final result of the operation in the bottom level. So let's start by getting the first number and second number. We can go to first text field, txt number 1, get the text and convert it to integer. This way we have our first number from the first text field, and we can do something similar for the second number, getting the value from the second text field. In order to get the operator selected from the combo box, we will get a string from this combo box. We call getSelectionModel method and then getSelectedItem. This will return an object, and we need to cast it to a string, but we can also define our combo box as a string combo box. In this case, in this way, we fix this error. Once we have the numbers and the operator, we can create a switch case structure to distinguish between the 4 possible options. In case it is an addition, we just put on the result label through the setText method the result of adding number 1 plus number 2. As this is an integer and setText expects a string, we can convert this expression to a string through string value of method. And we repeat these steps for the rest of possible options. Subtraction, multiplication, and division. We just change the string in each case, and also the arithmetic operation that needs to be performed. That's it. Let's check if it works properly. This is our calculator. If we put any 2 numbers in the 2 text fields and choose the appropriate operator, we can see in the result label the result calculated with these 2 numbers. We could improve some additional features of this application, such as control alignment and something else, but we will learn more about layouts and controls and alignments in next project. For now, we have learned how to download the software necessary to work with JavaFX application. We have learned how to create a project and set it up to properly locate the libraries regarding JavaFX, and how to define the layout and events of a simple JavaFX application. In next video, we will learn how to implement a complex application using more than one container, more than one scene or stage, and using multiple data.